panorama of our trees. One of the interesting and not so pleasant things about working on the pines is I always work on them like in the somewhere between the last week in June and the first 2 weeks in July, which is just about the hottest time of the year around here. And of course, there are never any clouds, and so Bob and I are sitting out here in 90-degree heat now. In a few hours, it's going to be almost 100 degrees, and we're sweating like pigs. And these things are too big to move around, so you just have to come out here and grin and bear it. Okay, this next tree, I found the tree that actually is in the blog. So the one I said earlier was in the blog, maybe in there, but this is the one I was really talking about as a start-over tree. This is the one I really like. Wonderful low turn in the tree. Started over into a low apex. And I want Bob to get a close-up to show you how the healing process is coming right down in here. You can just see the little peak of the original crater that I carved in this. But this is after about 5 years, 4 to 5 years. And notice that the edge of the callus is forming mature bark. So it's not true that this callus will never form natural bark. Eventually it will. But it does take it does take time. It might take 10 to 15 years for it to happen. And I've actually, my oldest and best tree, or possibly the best, at least my favorite, has scars that were this big that are completely healed, and you can't even find them anymore. They have mature bark over them, and you might see a little tiny 1/8 of an inch point of the hole where they originally were. So this one was started over into this sacrifice, and now is bushed out over the last year. So now I'm going to head it back, and we're going to take a look at it. Okay, Bob and I have been looking at this tree, and now we have a couple of possibilities for the next trunk section. We have the base trunk section, we have the second trunk section. Now we're looking at choosing a third trunk section. First, before we get into that, the second trunk section right here was formed by cutting off this part of the branch. And you can see this one's almost completely healed. That's only a little over 1/2 of an inch to go to completely heal over. Although it does not, as yet, have mature bark scales forming. And part of the reason is it's been in the shade. You can see how tan it is. It's been in the shade, whereas this part has been in the sun. And the sun really does help to bleach out and form the scale sections. So I believe the last time I was playing with this tree is that I wanted the front to come off of this side and come up here. So although I think I was working with this branch that went back. Now this was a little bud break that just went absolutely wild, and now is probably a better candidate for the third trunk section than this one was over here. This one will probably end up being a branch. And I'm going to nip out the central part of it there because it's really too thick. If it's a branch, it's going to have to be pretty small. So that's one possibility there. The rest of the stuff that's growing out of the top, I don't think is usable, except possibly this one. This little branch coming up into here could possibly be a trunk line. This one here is not going to be a trunk line, but is a possible final branch. Oh, it's a little thick, so if we're going to be a final branch, then we can start slowing it down, and do that by getting rid of the long internode there. That'll slow that one down. Okay, so now we look at the other side. Now what happened on this side of the tree? Remember, the back can always make front, and the front can always make back. So just turn the tree around 180 degrees. You get the same view of the curves of the trunk. And now we're looking at this one as a possible third trunk section. As of yet, it doesn't have anything low breaking down in here, but I just headed it back. So by 3 to 4 weeks from now, there's liable to be some bud breaks all along this little section. I would not be surprised. That's the way this tree has grown. This looks like a good branch here coming off of it, but it actually attaches behind it, so that really doesn't help us at this stage. So at this point, we've got two really good possibilities. There's no real reason to decide at this point to do one or the other. After this one breaks and develops a little bit more, then we'll be able to assess this one versus that one over there. And then once we do that, and we have that trunk line developed, then we can decide which big one comes off and decide if there's going to be any other branches down in there. But for now, that's it. All for that one.